The following podcast on the Your Own Pay Podcast Network will contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised. More information about this episode can be found at yourownpay.com.
For those listeners, welcome back. We are in 2020 because I'm not editing this in the next 6. Actually, my goal is that one of us will get edited by this weekend. That way we have it done. Like, I don't know what your logic is behind that, but we've got probably 2 or 3 episodes we recorded this year, and they never got out.
They never got out. Never got edited. Yeah, I plan to have it edited before New Year's. It probably won't come out until after New Year's, but yeah, I plan to have it edited.
Well, yeah, that's my goal. The first Tuesday of the year is when I want to shoot it out. Since New Year's pops out on a Wednesday, we can get it out Tuesday. What's that, the 6th or something is my goal, you know?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 6th, 7th will be that day. Tuesday the 7th. So you should be hearing this on Tuesday the 7th. If you're not, then we fucked up again.
Yo, sorry to interrupt, but it's time. Damashe and Michael, just talking tech.
The first thing I told Damashe when I jumped onto Source Element, Source Connect now is, man, I got a fucked up setup here. So what I'm doing is, I told you Barry bought me a boom arm for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the boom arm hooked up to the window at our new house. And I have the microphone right in front of my face, obviously, which is super awesome because then I don't have to hold it. That's Samsung Q2 plugged into a... I think it's a Thunderbolt. I don't know. I get USB-C and Thunderbolt confused, but a dock. It's plugged into a dock, and that dock is plugged into the Surface Book. Well, you might have realized I didn't have headphones, and I didn't want any feedback because the microphone's hanging right above the laptop screen, and battery's probably going to die in the middle of this recording. Hopefully not. We'll see. It's sitting at 67%, so we can't record all that. But then my headphones, what I'm monitoring with, is Mallory bought me this on-ear Bluetooth headset because I keep breaking them or losing pieces to them. So she actually bought me 2 of them from Walmart for Christmas, and they're like $15. So if I lose a pair, I have another pair to back up. So I'm running audio out through a Bluetooth headphones on the Mac, or not the Mac, on the Surface Book, because that was the fastest pair of headphones I could find. And when and I have Silencio, thanks to Jonathan Mosen. I'll link to the Damashe, do you know what episode we're on? I'll link
42. 42.
Oh, it is 42?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yourownpay.com/DM42. I thought we recorded 42, but apparently we did record 42.
We did record it, but we didn't edit it. So I just actually deleted all the files out of that folder today.
/DM42. I'll link to the article, but I'm using Silencio, which runs a silent audio stream to the Bluetooth headset because, it runs it to your sound card, which for me is the Bluetooth headset. Because if you don't, then Windows, to preserve battery or whatever their logic is behind it, will disconnect that audio stream. So whenever you don't have audio playing, I was using Spotify and just playing some music in the background. Well, that doesn't really work while I'm recording. So it will play silence audio so I don't have to listen to Jaws fade in and out while I'm using Bluetooth.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I was going to try, I found a quick form, but you know how forms are. You know how that can go. I found a quick form that says, hey, you can use this and choose this setting in Reaper preferences and record audio into its own track on Reaper. And I'm like, huh. So like Loopback, so I'm going to explore that for next time because... Well, next time I should have a mixer because I'm supposed to buy one of those in the next week or so. So as soon as I can, what's that word? Decide on something?
Yeah.
So how you been, Damashe? It's been a while.
I've been doing good, man. I've been doing good. I was sick as hell on yesterday, which for everybody listening was Christmas Day. I pretty much slept most of the day. Like I got up for a couple of hours and played with the kids with their new toys, and then I went back to bed. And I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't text anybody. I didn't do anything except sleep for the majority of Christmas.
At least you survived it, though.
Yeah, I survived it. I made it through. I'm all right. Doing a lot better today than I was yesterday, man. Yesterday I was like, oh.
That's positive.
It's like, oh man, yeah. Yesterday I was just completely screwed up. But everything's been going okay. Looking at so I set up a Google Doc. I'm betting you didn't look at the event, so you probably didn't see the link to the Google Doc in there. I just threw a couple of things in there. I learned about a new trick that maybe you already knew about with Google Docs, which is when you're typing, you can select the word, hit Command K, and it will do a search. That's also the shortcut to just pasting a link for a piece of text, but you can also have it do a search for the selected text.
Like a Google search? Or
yeah, like a Google search. No, it's doing a Google search.
Oh.
So quick way to link to things as we're talking if we get them right. So what I was doing is I actually typed out Silencio. Probably spelled it wrong or need a few more words to go on the end of that to try to link to it. So the link would already be there.
That's great because I wasn't aware you could do that. So see,
neither was I.
Learning something new every day.
Absolutely cool shortcut. I heard about it on Mac Geek Gab a few episodes ago. I was like, oh, so this is why I saw it explain some things.
Got to start using that.
It's like, oh man, let me go create a Google Doc. I also used that docs.new shortcut for the first time today too.
Yeah.
When I was creating this doc, which is cool. I have used the invoice.new for Stripe a few times since you told me about that.
So you got to give people a quick rundown of what
that is. I was just thinking, like, I think we talked about this on the last time we recorded, but nobody heard that. So Google, if I'm not mistaken, Google registered the entire TLD.new. So it goes on the end of your website. So like invoice.new or docs.new or whatever. But they're letting people register. They didn't actually wall it off to only their use. So they thought it would be cool to have it create new things in specific web apps. So one of those things is, of course, all of the Google stuff. Docs, docs.new will automatically create a new Google Doc. Sheets.new does the same thing for Sheets, etc. You get the point. But one of the other companies that jumped on it kind of as soon as it came out was Stripe, and they registered invoice.new, which if you have a Stripe account will automatically launch you into a new invoice. So all you have to do is type in customer information and the price.
Makes it super easy to eliminate the barrier of entry, which we're both not proud of, but we're both excited to do what we can to eliminate that barrier of entry. For example, recording the best project the first time, less editing.
Yeah, there you go. Always try to make it simpler, but it is a great way to get there. With Docs, it like for me, I just typed in docs.new. It was nice to end up right there with a brand new doc. I didn't have to navigate any interface. Just start typing, put a title on it, and throw in a couple of topics that me and Mike are probably going to discuss here in a bit.
So you're going to have to guide that conversation because I do not have that doc open and everything's working the way I expect it to. So I'm not going to.
Not touching it. I ain't touching it. Hey man, look, it's working. Don't touch it so it doesn't break.
Exactly. One weird thing happened to me with Google today. Did you get my voicemail this morning? Yeah, I actually left you a real voicemail.
So I read the transcript actually. It was like, hey, give me a call when you get a second. And there was something at the end. I meant to ask you about it too, and I forgot when we chatted very briefly. He was like, oh, whoa, we recognize I'm out of storage. Or at least that's what the transcription got. So what was going on?
So I was leaving your voicemail. Hey, give me a call when you have a few because I wanted to make sure that we were recording today and not on November 1st because that's a long time to wait for recording. And I'm like, wait, this looks weird. It says I've used 242% of my available storage, right? But if I jump over to Google Drive to start cleaning stuff out, because apparently your Drive and your Gmail use the same quota, I guess, or something is what the link said, it tells me I've used 10 gigs of 30 gigs. So there's some discrepancies there. I am told that my email will not send, but then Desiree texted me like 10 minutes after I hung up and said, I just got the email you forwarded us. I'm glad it was approved. And I'm like, well, now I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm still getting emails, so I'm just going to ignure it for now.
Yeah, I saw that email that you sent out too. So I'm assuming you sent that to the hello address.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder if it's calculating storage in the shared drive that you're a member of and erroneously, at least in the interface, erroneously surfacing that as your storage and you being over your storage, but the system itself is actually calculating it correctly. Therefore, it's not interrupting your ability to use your services.
That could be. I'll play around with it a bit more because, well, If it is an issue, then we should probably report it to Google because that should not be counting towards my storage from the way that I understand it.
It does not. It counts towards my storage as the person who created the shared drive in the first place, which is why I made sure.
You know how we can easily tell? is I wrote in Notepad, so I won't be able to check now, but when we drop our audio files in, that's obviously going to raise the
limit
usage,
yeah.
the space that I'm using. And so I will check those numbers when I get to work tomorrow.
So have you heard about this connected home over IP project that Google, Apple, Amazon, and Zigbee, I think, or Z-Wave or something is collaborating on?
Yes. Heard about it on DTNS, actually.
What do you think about it? Or what did you know pretty much kind of what it is? Because you probably, if you heard about it on the podcast, you probably know as much about it as I do, which is it's Apple, Google, Amazon, and I think it's Zigbee. Or Z-Wave, or one of those, that have come together to form a alliance that they're going to attempt to make home connectivity for smart home devices more accessible in the sense of more things working together. So instead of, having to buy, say, a Google, if you get a Google Home or if you have a Google Home, you can only use Google Home products right now with Google Home certified products. So most of those are actually owned by Google or Nest, I guess would be the proper way to say it. Same thing with Apple stuff. If you buy, if you're using Siri, if you're heavily in the Apple ecosystem, then you have to make sure your stuff is HomeKit compliant. If it is not, then you cannot address it using Siri. The plan here is for them to allow any device built with this new spec that they're starting to work on to address devices over your IP network, which one makes a lot of sense and makes me wonder why nobody thought of this before. Because every device is going to have an IP address because it's on your network. So like, why did nobody think of this before? But secondly, it should make it easier for you to just buy a product in the future and not care if it has certification with Google or certification with Siri or certification with Alexa, because it will just work for future products. It's not going to affect anything that you currently have. I don't think, from looking at the webpage, but I think it's an interesting project, and I'm glad to see, I guess, the most important, having Google, Amazon, and Apple collaborating on that make me kind of hope that it's going to get itself off the ground.
Right. And not only that, but the way I understand it, it should in theory have the added benefit of not having to have a hub for this set of lights. And if you want to try a different set of lights, get a different hub. You know what I'm saying? Because they should connect directly through Wi-Fi versus a iteration of Bluetooth, which some of these smart lights or smart homes are using. And Mallory really wants some more smart lights again, especially now that we move. And we just bought 2 floodlights today because both of our floodlights out front went out. And I'm starting to think going the smart light route, even with a hub, is the way to go, because those things aren't cheap.
Nope. They are not.
I'm excited for it. And hopefully it works the way it should. And as you said, with the major, I don't want to say giants, but the major tech individuals in that arena collaborating and working together should, one could hope, only benefit the consumer and make it a lot easier, especially for people setting up smart homes and not lock you into one ecosystem. Although our family's slipping back into the Echo ecosystem. There we go. The boys got Echo Dots for Christmas. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's
because they were on sale for $22.
Yeah, they were like crazy cheap. If I wasn't so paranoid, I would have bought some. But yeah, I'm not really feeling. I'm not really feeling too much stuff from Amazon.
I already got Sonos in the house, so can't be too paranoid.
Yeah, but Sonos, Amazon hadn't bought them yet, have they?
No, but you can have us or Google on them, so someone's listening somewhere.
Yeah, somebody's listening somewhere. I don't know. The deal with so sidetracking the conversation from CHIP, Connected Home over IP, which is the acronym somebody coined out of that, to just like my paranoia and the disturbance I feel about some of the smart home stuff. So Ring doorbell was acquired by Amazon earlier this year. And when Ring first came out, I was excited because it was the first sort of reasonably affordable product that was on the market that actually paid attention to their security. So they had ways to push out patches for security holes and things of that nature, push out updates to the devices, and they were handling that automatically. So they weren't leaving it up to the customer to be on top of that sort of thing. Cause we all know your average person buys a product, they plug it in, and if they're never prompted to do an update, they're not going to think about going to check for updates. So they were handling all of that stuff automatically, which was nice. And they were actually pushing out and fixing security holes. There's a couple of Wi-Fi issues that cropped up during the time that they were instantly on top of and fixing. And then in 2016, we found out that they had third-party contractors that were watching people's recorded video from their doorbells to help improve the algorithms that would, tell you whether or not a person was at your house, because people were getting false alarms because they had a tree or a little small bush or something near their front door and wind blew extremely hard, the leaves moved, and you get a notification, there's somebody on your porch, and there would be nobody there, nothing. So they were trying to fix that. I understand that. The issue was, at least for me, two things. Number one, they did not clearly, explicitly have people opt into that program. So they were watching your video without your consent necessarily. Another thing is the bucket itself was not really secured. Like the reason we found out about it is because somebody was able to get into the bucket, which made absolutely no sense. Why do you have an unsecured, anybody can access this public bucket on the internet with S3? Makes no sense. Mistakes happen, things happen. It's okay. All right. It wasn't a huge deal, but for me, it put up a big warning flag because it's like, okay, I set up a lot of S3 buckets or have set up a lot of S3 buckets over the years. And Amazon, because of people making mistakes with default settings for buckets, will nag the shit out of you when you're setting up a new bucket and you want to make it public. Like say you want it to store the image files for your website. So you're like, well, it needs to be public so people coming to my site can see the images that are in the bucket. Amazon will nag the shit out of you. Are you really sure you want to make this public? Because you're making this public. It means anybody on the internet can see this. Are you really sure you want to do this? You're making this public. And then once you're done with the process, they still send you an email a couple of days later. It's like, I know I did it on purpose. Thank you. So one, how do you make such a mistake? Two, why are you taking people's information and using it to better your product, which is a reasonable thing to do without explicit opt-in? So that sort of threw up a flag for me, at least with Ring at the time. What has come to light earlier this year is that they initiated a program with local police departments in several jurisdictions whereby they incentivize the local police departments to push Ring doorbells to their constituents, is not the right word, their residents, as a home security measure, with the benefit being to the police departments that one, they would get discounts on Ring products. So, here's a referral program right here running. Okay. Yeah, that's a little weird, a little creepy, but okay. But also they were giving the police departments free access to a web portal where they could log in and view the live video stream. And I think, I'm not certain about this, maybe also recorded archived content. I'm not sure, but definitely view the live video streams from people's doorbells that were installed in their homes. Now, it's a doorbell, so it's watching outside your house, so they're not, looking at, unless you're weird and you got a doorbell on your bedroom because you're 16 and you want people to, have to announce themselves before they come into your bedroom. But in general terms, they're monitoring the outside of your house, which some people may say, okay, they're not in my house, but, nobody was, again, this was not an opt-in program necessarily. I think it was more of an opt-out if you knew that there was a thing going on and you needed to try to opt out of it. And it's just one of those sort of nasty relationships like this shouldn't happen. You're basically turning a product that I paid for. It's not as if the police stations were going around giving out Ring doorbells to people. Like, hey, install these and help us help you monitor the security of your neighborhood. It wasn't that sort of deal. It's like we're giving away Ring doorbells to people. It's like, no, I went and spent $200 for this shit. And you're going to turn around and use it for surveillance without my permission, without my consent to the local police department. Like, to me, that threw up all, like, that beyond threw up red flags. It was like, all right, they're dead to me at this point. Like, I have nothing to do with Ring whatsoever at this point. And the thing that slightly disturbs me is we discussed before some of the, mishaps of Amazon's canister lady picking up conversations and doing things not intended by the user. During their acquisition of Ring, they knew nothing about this and didn't find out about it until shortly before we, the public, found out about the program. But it brings up an interesting question, like, how could they not have known about it?
Especially if you're planning to acquire that company. Like, that's I understand your concern, especially when you put it that way. And I'll be honest, I listened to a few podcasts where it makes me second guess it. But the other positive thing is, well, I can drop in on Benjamin. As long as not everyone can drop in on Benjamin, I can drop in on Benjamin and be like, "Hey, what you doing?" While I'm at work, and it scared him today. I don't think he realized how drop-in worked when he gave me permission. And then all of a sudden, I'm in his speaker, and he's like, "What are you doing?
How did you get in there?"
Yeah. How are you in front of my TV talking to me while I'm playing my video game? I like it though.
Yeah, I mean, there's definite upsides and there's downsides. My personal feeling is I'm not going to advise a person for or against either way. I just like people to be informed as to, like, here's some things that are going on, and here's some things that I feel like need answering, or you should be aware of, that like this is a potential problem. And Apple went through a similar thing where they were sending your Siri requests back to and having people audit them to try to figure out how to make the service better. And I'm not trying to give Apple a pass, because I don't believe in giving anybody a pass, especially Apple, when it comes to some privacy or security lately, because they beat that drum so hard. It was sort of implied, but it was not explicit. So I can understand why the internet was completely upset about it. I wasn't as upset because I sort of knew it. Like, it wasn't a thing that they hid. And it could be some similar stuff with Ring, right? There may be some details that, particular news outlets chose to not highlight as much as the bad stuff. So if you have a Ring doorbell and you know about their terms of service and, all of that stuff, and you were actually given an opportunity to opt out of these things, like, I would love to hear about it, because we all know clickbait is the name of the game. So they're going to highlight necessarily the bad without necessarily explaining, well, actually during the setup process, they say this, because, a lot of people went nuts about the whole Siri thing. I'm like, well, when you turn on Siri, it's like some of your requests may be sent back to Apple to blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that pretty much kind of tells you that that's what they're going to do. The only problem that I necessarily saw with it was that you couldn't opt out of it and still use Siri. It's like, hey, either we're going to use your stuff or you can't use Siri, right? That may have been a step too far, but it's kind of like, it's a little explicit about it. If you use Siri, some of your requests may be sent back to Apple for processing to blah, 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 blah. It's like, all right. So you may listen to some of the things that I tried to say to Siri and figure out why it didn't work. And you may get a lot of curse words in that. I
called her a bitch again.
Yeah. You're like, I wonder why he's doing that. Well, what did he say to her right before that? Oh, he was trying to get the weather, and she was giving him locations of, Walmarts. And it's like, I don't see how that makes sense either. What the hell is going on with this bitch?
Let's look into it more to make the experience better for the consumer. But you're right. They mention the fact that, your requests are going to be sent back to Apple. And come on, when you can't use Siri without it being off of airplane mode, like, your requests are being sent somewhere, people.
Yeah, but I can get it. Be more explicit. Yeah. I think it honestly serves any company better, especially if you're in the position that Apple is, where you're always shouting your security and your focus on privacy, to be explicit in all ways with all things when you're collecting data, because nobody wants to be in the position of having to explain, well, we thought we explained this by telling you this. Yeah, it was implied and I understood it. Maybe a techie understands it, but a person who is not a techie and just wants their shit to work, like, no, be explicit so that people can't have there can't be a misunderstanding. Make it so that there's no misunderstanding.
So, on that note,
that went way
task
down
management
somewhere. Man, fuck some task management. I ain't managing no tasks. I saw you join the doc too.
Is that what you meant by the note here in the doc? Is I ain't gonna do any task management now?
Nah, I've just been kind of rethinking the whole process of task management. Because I have been continuing to try and use Todoist, but it still has that major pain point for me of, not being usable on the Mac at all.
Yeah. So the solution to that, Damashe, is to take the skills you've learned in programming by stealth and program your own Todoist app.
Fuck that.
Add that to your Todoist projects.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I did actually think about it. Like, well, they do have an API. Like, I could probably, pull from a few actions I've seen people write here and there for drafts, a couple of shortcuts, and figure out a way to write some stuff that I could even trigger from Launchbar, to like just fetch from the API, show me these things, let me do it. I thought about that. I was like, I should not have to write an entirely new interface to your shit when I'm paying for it. Like, I don't feel like it. No, I don't have time for that, first of all. Like, I really don't have the time.
Right.
Literally, I don't have the time.
I'm using Todoist, kind of. As you may have seen, I've kind of fallen out of, There's a new one out here. I just did a quick Google search for Todoist launch bar. To see if there's already actions there. And there's a new one called Why I'm Switching from Todoist to Informant. So, I'm going to have to start. I can't go down that rabbit hole. Anyways, I was using Todoist for.
Hey, you should drop that link in the thing, in the doc. But Informant, really? I don't know if I want to call. I don't want to use anything called Informant. It's already telling me it's snitching. It's snitching right away.
See previous chapter. But yeah, I'm using Todoist. Kind of. I stopped using it for a little bit. I resubscribed because I had some Google Play credit. So I resubscribed to Todoist Premium, hoping that maybe I'll use it more. Ironically enough, I stopped using it so much after I talked about it on Kelly Co. And so that's interesting.
Funny how that happens.
That happened. Yeah. And I then started to use it again yesterday, and I haven't checked anything off today that I know I've done yet, because I have to go in there and actually have to mark it complete. Why can't Todoist or other task management apps yet just read my mind and understand that I did that shit already, and you don't need to remind me about it?
Yeah, I think that's sort of the reason that I'm kind of revisiting the whole thing too. It's like, one, frustration with Todoist is like, okay, it's gotten better accessibility wise on iOS. There's no progress whatsoever on the web or the Mac app, for me at least, last time I checked.
Same with Windows.
But it's also that it's like there's just a little bit more friction to have to, already I got to pick up my phone, which to me is an annoyance. If I'm at the computer with my hands on the keyboard like I am right now, I don't want to pick up my phone for anything. I'm not one of those. I know there are people that are like this, that they will do specific things on specific devices. Like, oh, I'm going to record my podcast on my Mac, but I'm going to pick up my phone and check off stuff and things. And it's like, yeah, to me, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not saying you as a person, if that's how you work, are wrong. And I'm not saying the way that I choose to do it is right. But for me, that's too much friction. I don't like jumping devices to do a specific thing unless it's a thing that cannot be done at the device that I happen to be using, which I don't think should be anything. We've had a discussion about that in the past about cross-platform services and applications. Like, I should be able to work from where I'm at, not have to go, oh, I need to, check this.
Get my phone to mark those tasks that I just completed
on my computer.
Off.
I need to pick up my phone. Yeah, and then it also breaks concentration, right? But the other friction that I'm experiencing too is like what you just said, where I've done a thing, but at the time of me completing that task, like I was not in a position to go check it off, and now I got to remember to go check it off, and I don't remember to check it off until it nags me about it 4 hours later. It's like, oh yeah, I did that,
and then I lose karma points. I know you don't really care about karma points, but did you know that if you don't mark shit off when it's time to be completed and it goes past due, you lose like 2 karma points? And I could have been a grandmaster on Todoist by now, but no, I keep losing these stupid karma points because I don't mark server logs off until I get home from work.
Man, see, that's terrible. You could game the system just by pushing those due times back a little bit, possibly.
Yeah, but that would mean that I have to go in and do that with all my tasks and this and that.
Wants to do that.
Yeah. I do like, so the longer term things, and number one, the catch is I have to remember to look into Todoist. So that's number one. Not a big hurdle, but it's there. I don't want to disregard the fact that you have to go look in your today screen, because that is something you have to do if it's not something you do every day. I do it maybe about 50% of the time. I do like the fact that I can go in there and say, oh, it's time to refill the dog water and not have to go check the dog water. Or more importantly, for example, oh, it's time to buy more cat food in the next week or we're going to run out. Like that's very handy. And I have not found a way to do that with reminders on Android specifically. Not to say that you can't, but that's the only reason I'm using Todoist is for those long-term things and the bills at the end of the month. I mean, if the power gets shut off because I didn't pay it, that's a pretty damn good reminder that I needed to pay the power. Yeah. But I'd prefer to be reminded before it gets shut off.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you got reconnection fees and all of that, and yeah.
Pissed off kids, pissed off wife, you know.
Yeah, that's really important. The pissed off wife. Nobody really curious about the pissed off kids. They'll get over it.
Yeah.
Pay a bill, then you can get pissed off about something.
Right? I was listening to Clark Howard today, and he's like talking about how you can get paid like around $7 an hour on MTurk if you choose the right task. He's like, I just need my son to start doing this. He can start paying some of these bills.
Yeah. Right.
So time tracking.
Oh man, fuck time.
Are you doing that, or are you thinking about it, or are you wanting to do it?
Oh man, I was doing it, and then I kind of fell off the wagon with it for a while.
I have not been doing it. I mean, I know I spent 5.5 hours. I was doing a time card today. 5 hours and 20 minutes on average at work, and the rest of it, I don't really care. I mean, I should, but I don't.
Yeah, I was doing it. I was mostly doing it because I was working on projects for people. Like I wanted to track how long it was taking me to do certain things when it came to WordPress development, building a site, doing things like that. So one, I can have a better idea of, okay, when I get a new client, I can actually give them a really good estimate of how long this should probably take me. Like, okay, normally it takes me 3 hours, build in a little padding right there. And there you go, 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever. And I found myself doing it quite a bit, but I ended up running into the same issue that I kind of ran into with task management, which is one, remembering to start a timer. Yep. More importantly, remembering to end the timer. And the desktop apps just not being great for that. There's a really nice iOS app that connects to Toggle, which is awesome, but the Toggle desktop app is a little weird. And I think I'm more impatient today than I used to be. So it's like trying to figure out the exact ways to hit this so that I can make it start a task or stop a task or resume a task. It's like, I just don't have the patience for it. I don't have the patience, at all. I used to use Setup for a while, and they had an app in there called Timing. I think is what it was called, Timing.
Yep.
They will do automatic, and there's other apps like this, that will do automatic time tracking. So basically, as you switch between applications and windows and documents and stuff, they're tracking how much time you're spending in each thing. And then you have to go, fix things up. So it's like, I spent this much time in this Google Doc. Okay. Well, that was DM show recording. All right. Once I have assigned that kind of task, it'll start to recognize, okay, when he's doing these tasks, those belong to these projects or that client or whatever. But then you run into the issue, they don't have an iOS app. So when I'm not at my computer, how do I track my time? Or
what? There's times you're not at your computer?
Man, surprisingly, there are a lot of times I'm not at my computer and I'm still actually doing work, even if it's research. I'm still doing shit.
Right.
I don't know. Time tracking to me is an interesting thing because you can figure out how long, like oftentimes I think we as people tend not to recognize how long it takes to do something. We'll say, oh yeah, it'll take me about 30 minutes to do that for you. It ends up taking you like an hour and a half. And it's not because you're fucking off. It's just because like it really takes more time than you think it does. Because you've never looked at the clock like, okay, I'm starting now and it's 1:30. And when you finish, it's, 2:30. You start and you stop. You're like, oh, that felt like about 30 minutes. And you can be so off. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to start tracking time, not just for, billing client purposes, but also just to figure out how am I actually spending my time? Where am I wasting time at, first of all, because I need to cut out those things.
I like Google Docs. I really do like Google Docs.
Yeah, like I'm liking it more and more, and it's like, oh man, you know what? I gotta. 2020 is gonna be the year of me becoming a little bit more hardline on people. I'm gonna stop being as flexible about things, especially when they're problematic and annoying me, and they don't have to be that way.
Well, and we're still using Notepad for saving show notes for one of our live shows at work. And I'm seeing how Google Docs would be super beneficial. So yeah, keep that in the back of my mind. I mentioned to Jason, our new PA, I'm like, hey, production assistant. I'm like, hey, just so you know, we could use Google Docs. And then when people call me and ask me for a phone number, I don't have to say, hey, give me your phone number. I'll call you when the show's over and I can actually see those notes. I mean, we are in the 21st century.
Oh man, that's terrible. Yeah. Cause I didn't think about that. Sometimes you need to see something as they're working on it. It's like, well, you can't do that if you send Notepad.
Yeah, I have to wait till they actually save it in the shared network drive, and then I can get access to it. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah,
fun
as
times.
long as they're not actually working on it at the same, like they didn't just save it there and they're still typing in it like that. Yeah, Google Docs, people. So, speaking of what are you guys using for email? Like, are they using G Suite or
we're using Exchange?
Exchange, so they're using Office.
Yeah. We're using Exchange in the cloud, I think, because I can go to I think is the URL. I don't, but I can. But I also have my email for work set up in my
Outlook
app on the computer and not on my phone, interestingly enough, because I do have to, people understand this, I do have to have at least an hour or two away from work email.
Yeah, man, look, you can't check work email. Like, give him a raise and then maybe he'll put it on his phone. That's kind of how that works. It's
exactly.
Like,
well, and here's the thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a certain payment threshold that you have to pass before I give you like 24-hour access to be able to just yank me out of bed or something with a goofy email about, so yeah, tomorrow we need to make sure that we do blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I'll see that shit when I wake up.
Yeah, see, that transitions into a couple of months ago. Like, it had to have been October, November, maybe even September. Amy, one of our sales reps, I'll call her out. She sent me an email and she goes, hey, we need to voice this and we need to edit it and get it to me when you have some time. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay. And then it was in my email inbox and I'm at home and I'm like, well, I could record it now and I could edit it now. And it was on a Saturday. No, it was a Friday afternoon. And yeah, she got the deliverable at like 9 p.m. that day because it was there. It was on my email. And I'm like, I could get it done and I don't have to worry about it on Monday. So let's just get that shit done.
Yeah.
Good time. So tell me about this app that's next on your list. Because I installed it. It looks like it works. I'm talking about SQRL. Yeah. Yeah. I installed
Secure,
it.
Quick.
That's it.
Wait, what the hell does it stand for? I forgot now.
Oh, no.
Secure, quick, reliable login is what I think it stands for. Anyway, there's a link in the show notes. DM42. yourownpay.com/DM42. There's a link to SQRL. So SQRL is... I'm going to give a very rough summary of it. The link will take you to kind of like the explanation docs and the show notes, for people listening. SQRL was created by Steve Gibson, who is the host of the Twit Network Security Now podcast. Longtime security, guy and Windows developer. And the purpose of it was to figure out a different way. What he set out to do was solve the problem of logins, right? Because we all have the issue of logins. One, when you go to a site, you have to give it a username, a password. And a part of the problem, there's two issues with that the current way that things work for authenticating to a website. Number one, you, the user, need to keep track of your username and password. If you manage to lose those things, then you cannot get back into that account unless they have some mechanism in place for you to reset your password. The other problem is, as we've been seeing over the past 5-6 years, is you're entrusting said website to keep your security safe. So like, you've given them a password in order to let you into your account. But you're trusting them with the security of your account at that point. So if their database gets hacked and they didn't do a great job hashing and encrypting your passwords, well, now somebody else has your password. And if you were foolish, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it like that.
No. In this day and age, if you were foolish, I would say it that way.
If you were foolish and used the same password elsewhere, now they're going to get into those accounts. And God help you if you use the same password for your email, because email gives people pretty much I would say email is probably the crown jewels, though, for the simple fact that once you are inside my email account, you can now go reset my password everywhere else.
Anywhere else you want access to. And 99% of your two-factor authentication systems have an email backup or some form of that, so you can get in. Or you could Yeah, I agree with you. Email's the crown jewel.
Even if even if I have 2-factor on and like, you can social engineer somebody into being able to say, well, look, I can send you an email from my email account, blah, 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 blah. Can you please help me get back into my account? Send a link here and then I can, like, once you're in there, you can do too much. So even more so than your bank, because, online banking, they got an email address. You can get them to resend your password to your email address. So there you go. Yeah. So what SQRL sets out to do and what it does, is it puts the power of securing your secrets and your authentication to a website in your hands as a user. It does put all of the responsibility on you. So first thing to note is if you create a Squirrel identity, and you connect it to a website that supports Squirrel, that's what they call it, Squirrel, SQRL. If you connect it to a site that uses Squirrel, so let's say, a discourse instance, the Twit discourse instance actually at twit.community. I'll shout them out because they're a public facing thing that I know supports Squirrel login. So you create your Squirrel identity inside the app. You go to twit.community, you connect your Squirrel identity to Twit. So that authenticates you as a user. That's how you log into the Twit community. If you lose access to your Squirrel identity, there's nothing Twit can do to help you. Like, you are completely 100% fucked. Nothing. There's nothing. There's no reset my password. There's no nothing that is going to help you out of that situation. So it does put all of the responsibility on you, the user. Now, on the flip side, you do have some backup options. So, one, you can back up your Squirrel ID. You can print it out. You can save it as a file and store it somewhere securely. Like, there's ways to back it up. So, let's say you lost your phone or something. You should not be, if you follow directions, first of all, you should not be completely screwed, because you should have a backup copy of your authentication information somewhere where you can reconnect it. So you're safe. The way that it actually works is, once you went in and created a Squirrel ID, and basically you put in what you would like to be as your username or whatever, who your identity is going to be, you create a strong password that you will have to type in to authenticate yourself whenever you're using Squirrel to log in. And of course that can be, you can use Touch ID, Face ID, whatever like that. Password fingerprint authentication or face authentication if your device supports that. So you don't have to type in that password. But once you have your Squirrel identity, like I said, using the Twit community as an example, you would go there, you would say they have a button that says log in with Squirrel. If you're using the Windows app, I have not used the Windows app at all, of course, naturally, because it's not possible. But if you're using the Windows app, you would be prompted by clicking, what you would do is click on the login with Squirrel image link on that page, and it would, launch a local request to your Squirrel app that says, hey, this site is trying to authenticate using Squirrel. Would you like to do so? And then you would type in your password or do fingerprint authentication or whatever, and it sends back and says, yes, you can log me in as blah, blah, blah. All the technical details are a little bit somewhat beyond me, but it does work. Same thing with a mobile device. The only difference with a mobile device is that you would use your camera to scan the QR code that's shown on the screen and do the authentication from your phone. The neat thing about it is it's sort of like 2-factor in a way, because you have to have your Squirrel application with your Squirrel identity registered in order for you to get in. The site itself does not have anything to lose, such as a password or any sort of token or anything like that that could allow someone else access to your account. It's neat. I'm going to drop a link in the show notes to the explainer video that he does at twit.tv.
Twit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of walking you through the entire thing since he's finished with it and has actually released it. I find it extremely compelling as a way for people to log into something without having the barrier that we currently have, which is username and password, because there are a lot of ways that usernames and passwords are done very, very insecurely. Down to the whole email me a reset link to reset my password. Right. It's really a very insecure thing to do. A service I recently started using, sync.com. I'll drop a link in the show notes to that. Maybe Mike is typing it down there at the bottom now as I speak. But sync.com, when you set up an account with them, they're a cloud, sync service, sort of like Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud, etc. But what they do is they encrypt your stuff on device before it gets pushed up to their cloud. So everything is sitting on their servers is encrypted. But they've done it in such a way that it still allows you to get the same functionality that you come to expect out of a cloud service like Dropbox or Google, where you have access to it from any device when you log in. You can even share folders, which has been the biggest issue with kind of online encrypted storage is how do I share this with somebody else? But during their setup process, that should give you an option to say, don't allow me to reset my password via email reset link, which plugs up that security hole. Obviously, I checked this box. So I was like, yeah, I checked this box.
I'm going to save my password in 1Password so I can't
Right.
forget it.
And I'm going to make sure that it's there. And then I'm going to check this box. I'm like, all right, man, peace. I'm out. Before I start putting anything in there, I'm going to make sure my 1Password works everywhere. But okay, yep, I'm good. And I like it. Squirrel is nice. I do expect that it's going to be one of those things. It's my hope that it'll be something that'll kind of take off because it's fairly easy once you set it up. It's not a difficult setup process.
Yeah. It looked like it.
So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. There are people who are working on, apps and, libraries for servers in different, programming languages. There's actually a WordPress plugin that may be out of beta now that adds it to your WordPress site. Obviously, if you can get a WordPress plugin, you can start moving things a little bit. If you can get a WordPress plugin created, you can start moving stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting way to think about authenticating yourself to websites, versus the traditional username password method.
But the website provider itself obviously has to support it in order for it to be beneficial to you. So, something to keep in the back pocket. And if they offer it, use it because it's going to keep you. Now, this twit.network or whatever the domain name is for do they have both authentication processes or do you have to use this tool to sign up?
No, they have both, authentication processes. Okay. And actually, so they're actually using Discourse. And they are currently using Squirrel through a, what is it called? OAuth 2 server. So there's there's not yet I think somebody has written a Ruby package or Ruby gem for, the Squirrel protocol, but nobody's actually written the plugin for Discourse. So they're actually doing it. You're basically authenticating to a third party server that then bounces you back to Twit. Same way it would work if you use like Google or Twitter to log into a website.
Oh, okay.
At the moment. Is how that's working. Okay. So yeah, they still got the regular, set up an account with an email address and all that stuff.
Username, password, and then we can email your ex-wife and she can get into your account and your stuff.
There you go.
Oh, no. Side note, that has never happened to me. I get along with my ex-wife.
I was about to say, Mike, so you want to share that story with the people? And if not, you got to share it with me after the fact because I got to hear this one.
No notorious things like that. Now, I see you got Text Expander here. I want to talk about that on our next episode, so people will tune in to listen to Text Expander on Windows. They just pushed a beta update today, so I wanted to explore that a little more. It is getting to be more prominent and more into my workflow again on Windows. Damashe, you have an announcement to remind people of.
Yeah, man. Windows 7 update support ends January 14th, 2020.
No more.
So I believe on that date you will get a final update to Windows, if I'm not mistaken. There's a link. Well, there will be a link in the show notes for you to read all about it. But I think you're going to get an update on that date. But whether you get one or don't get one, that is it. It's over. There's going to be no more updates pushed out to Windows 7 at that point in time. One other thing I would like to mention too regarding that is it's a little bit up in the air at the moment as to whether or not Microsoft Security Essentials will continue to receive profile updates in the future. So whether or not they'll still continue to push definitions. So, definitions being like new malwares discovered, where they push those updates, continue to push those to Windows 7 version of Microsoft Security Essentials. Some have said no, some have said yes. I think the confusion lies in the fact that you can continue to get Windows support. Well, you can. If you're listening to this show, you probably cannot. Corporations with a lot of money, and only corporations. So even you as an individual cannot do this. You will have to be a corporation that has a specific sort of service level agreement with Windows, with Microsoft, can continue to get Windows 7 support at a very, very healthy cost. And it doubles. It is not cheap. It is not cheap, and it doubles in 2021. So, might want to keep that in mind. If you have any control over your IT department, get the hell off Windows 7, because it's going to cost you a lot of money. I think the confusion about Windows Security Essentials comes from that those corporations who choose to pay Microsoft to continue pushing updates for Windows 7 in the future will continue to get security updates, and those people who do not but still are using Windows 7 will not. That is my speculation. That has not been factual as of the time of this recording. I don't have any proof of that, but that is my suspicion, is that that's why there has been some confusion over the past couple of weeks as to whether or not the security updates for security profiles be continued to be pushed and updated to Microsoft Security Essentials. Basically, get off Windows 7 if you at all possibly can.
And if you're on Windows XP, damn it, you should be off of that a long time ago, people. Come on.
If you cannot upgrade, because I actually have a desktop sitting up under the desk right now next to me that cannot go up to Windows 10. It's not it's not recommended that you upgrade this desktop to Windows 10 because it probably won't handle it. Apparently, their suggestion to me is to buy a new computer. That ain't happening. So, if you cannot
if only they would buy you a new computer.
Yeah, if they would just give me a new computer.
It's really easy for them to recommend buy a new computer.
Buy a new computer. Buy a Surface Book. And it's like, no, I don't, like, really. Yeah. Not only buy a new computer, but we recommend the Surface Book. And it's like, all right.
Now, when that message pops up that says, you're running too old of a computer, we will buy you a Surface Book, then you'll
click on it. Yeah, then I'll click on it. But if you find yourself in the circumstances where your device cannot be upgraded past Windows 7, or you're like some people who I'm aware of that have Windows 7 and your AT, whether it's a screen reader or screen magnification, you can't afford the cost to jump up to Windows 10 because then your current AT solution does not work on Windows 10. I really don't know what to say except be careful. Be very, very, very careful and try to find a solution that will work for you elsewhere in the future, because they're going to stop pushing updates to Windows 7. Like, they're done.
And remember, if you have a computer that'll upgrade it, Windows Narrator has come a long ways from Windows 7. Like that, though it might not be ideal because you'll have to learn a new screen reader, that and NV Access is a solution for you. So
yeah, NVDA is an option.
What's holding you back?
Yeah, for screen reader users, definitely Narrator and NVDA both work fairly well on Windows 10. I don't
know about Magnifier on Windows 10.
Yeah, that's what I don't know about. And I do know a few people that are in that situation with Zoom Text, where they have Zoom Text, but they can't afford to pay $600 to get the next version of Zoom Text. And, that computer was purchased at a time when, Rehab or somebody purchased it for them, and they don't have an open case for Rehab. They basically have no meaningful way of getting the new version of Zoom Text for Windows 10. So going to Windows 10 mean they lose access to magnification. And I can't speak at all to the accessibility, usability of Windows Magnifier. If you have to stay on Windows 7, be extremely careful. That's all I can say to you. Just be extremely careful. Lock down as much of your system as you possibly can. Don't click on stuff that you shouldn't be clicking on. Don't pirate shit because you're asking for trouble. Be safe.
Yes, I am still using multiple Windows on the laptop. And then I jump onto my work computer, which is Windows 7. Glad we had this conversation. Hope you're listening, work. Those 8 computers we're supposed to get with Windows 10 better be here before the 14th.
Oh, man. Yeah.
the what do you call it? Multiple desktops. I'm using that on Windows 10 on the laptop, and then I try to use it on the Windows 7 computer, and it does not work. Just saying.
Very disappointing when you get used to a feature and then it no longer, like, you go to a different device, you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't work over here.
Yeah, well, and that's, so I'm at the place where I might have to move. Those who don't know, I set up Hotspot Clicker on my work computer because it's connected to both networks, our external network and our internal network for audio editing and not editing, but the automation system. And I have JAWS scripts set up that I've created for myself because it does what I need to do so I can get through the program. And it works great. My hesitation is moving those to the laptop and seeing if they still work, which I guess would be a good test. And maybe I should get over my hesitation and actually do it, because if they work, then I can reach out to the company and be like, hey, here's scripts that I've moved from one version of JAWS. Well, no, they're both on 2020. But you know what I'm saying? From one device to another device, and they still work. And here's how blind users can use your software. And it's not an inaccessible pile of crap that's expensive anymore. But yeah, that's
the worst kind of pile of accessibility crap too. Is the expensive pile of accessibility.
Yeah, super expensive. And I think it's even held me back from scripting other aspects of the software, because I know that this computer that I'm working on right now at work is going to go away. Either that be going to my laptop and me using tools from that, or me getting a new Windows 10 computer. So I've not written scripts for the actual studio software to see how much time's left in the current spot that's running, or, you know what I'm saying, to write new scripts for the clock manager to actually accurately choose the date and time that I'm working on, because I can get through those processes with using the JAWS cursor. So I haven't had to make it more convenient, because I'm concerned that the scripts I write won't work the same in Windows 10, which I think is a legitimate concern, but I just need to get over it. And probably by the time people hear this, I'll have tried it on a different system. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Oh, no, but to me, what it sounds like you should do is you should try copying the scripts over to your laptop to see if they work. Because if you're going to end up with Windows 10 at some point on the computer from work, the computer that's at work, you need to make sure they're going to work on Windows 10 anyway. May as well do it while you still have the option to hang back on 7 or go back to 7, you know, on the desktop at work, and still get your work done while you solve whatever the issues are, taking those scripts to Windows 10. Yeah, instead of it happening once they put the new computer on your desk and you're like, oh shit, none of this works.
Hey, look at you thinking critically.
Hey man, I read a book, and I don't know. I mean, I read a book because Audible was having a sale. Yeah. So you're using macOS Spaces? I am back using macOS Spaces. They're weird. They're weird. I do like the ability to put stuff in a specific workspace and be able to switch between them. The only problem I have is, and I think I mentioned this to you before when we talked about it, and I talked to you about my having used Spaces in the past, and for some reason it wasn't working on my Mac. It was a setting that I needed to go uncheck somewhere. I basically turned it off. But the issue that I mentioned to you then that I found problematic, and you said this actually works quite well for you on Windows 10, is, let's take Chrome, for example, right? I have a Chrome window open now, with the dock in it, and then I have another tab open behind that has Source Now running, Source Elements running, whatever it's called.
Source Connect Source Elements Now, I think is what I punch into Google, and it finds it.
You know, that thing, running in another tab. Now, if I had this Chrome window in a different space, and I had another Chrome window open in a separate space. So let's say I have, 3 spaces. One of them has Chrome with Gmail open and a Google search and a GitHub page open. Then I have another workspace that doesn't have anything but Audio Hijack in it. And then I have a third workspace that has this instance of Chrome that I'm in right now with Source Now and the Google Doc that we're looking at. Command tab. Let's say I flipped over to Audio Hijack. I switched over to that space. When I command tab, or nope, I think I'm explaining this badly. Okay, let's start over. Spaces on the Mac. Here's the issue that I run into when I have multiple windows for the same application in different spaces. Right now I have a Chrome window open with Google Docs and Source Now Elements running in another tab behind this. I've been switching between those two tabs, checking the time and checking the Google Doc. Also in this space that I'm currently working in, I have Audio Hijack running because it's serving as my backup recording. Now, in a separate space, we'll call it Desktop 1, I have a Safari window open and I have a Chrome window open with my Gmail, with the Gmail app open, right? If I were to Command Tab over to Audio Hijack right now, I'm still in the same space with this Chrome window. And, you know, maybe do some stuff and just check, make sure the recording's still working, et cetera, et cetera. If I were to Command Tab again, there are circumstances, because what I'm about to say really wouldn't work, but there are circumstances where if I have multiple windows for the same application open in different spaces, there are circumstances that would dump me into a different space instead of it keeping me restrained to Chrome in this space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the problem. Go ahead.
I don't know if we actually publish it. I think we published it on DM41. So those who might remember, with virtual desktops on Windows 10, I can press Alt-Tab all day long, and I'll just see this instance of Chrome and Notepad. But then if I get to my desktop and I press Control Windows right arrow, that'll put me on Desktop 2, and I can Alt-Tab between Outlook and the other Chrome browser that I might have running, and I won't get those two desktops mixed up. So I think I see the confusion.
See, I can Alt-Tab, like while I'm in this space, I can Alt-Tab, and I'll end up opening up Mail in a whole nother space, and it'll move me over to that space. And see, that's the problem. Like, I don't want it to do that. That is the issue, because oftentimes if you got, you know, because I have been working in spaces where I had like TextMate, terminal window open, and Safari and Chrome, because I'm, you know, looking at a web page, looking at a website that I'm working on. But then I got, you know, a bunch of crap, who knows what else open in a whole bunch of other windows. And one, I don't like the stuff from other spaces showing up when I'm hitting Command Tab. I would like it to do exactly what Windows does, which is restrict my Command Tabbing to just this space that I'm in right now. So don't bring up stuff that's over there in a whole other space. Like, I don't even want that to show up in Command Tab switcher. I don't need that. And that's the problem.
That's why I set up these spaces versus different windows within an application.
Right. That's the whole point. Yeah. But anyway, that's the problem.
So if anyone has any solutions, head on over to yourownpay.com/DM42. That's all I have for now. I'm not going to recommend an app this time. If you have one, you can go and recommend one, or we will definitely do that on the next episode.
Man, I don't have a recommendation for an app. Look, apps are great. Check them out. Use them. They're awesome. That's all I got. Hey, shortcuts on iOS. Check it out. It is amazing. They've done a lot of nice stuff with it in iOS 13. A lot more hooks into applications. You can voice message
Android users within messages.
Yeah, you can. So check out shortcuts on iOS. That's my recommendation for you.
There you go. And we'll be back in no more than a month.
Yeah, we'll be back sometime.
No more than a month.
We'll be back at some time in the future. Just stay subscribed to the show. And then the next time we publish a new episode, you will get that one too. And see, then you won't have to worry what the schedule is, because you'll just get the show automatically. It's not like we do them live, people. It doesn't matter. Just stay subscribed. You'll get the show. I'm
at Payon, P-A-Y-O-W-N on Twitter. When he's on Twitter, he's at Damashe, D-A-M-A-S-H-E.
There you go. Peace.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.